Hey friends, this is Heather. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. I have another scrapbook layout for the main kit for February from My Creative Scrapbook. And I'm doing something that is, I think, very different, different than what I'm used to. The inspiration behind my design came from the photo that I'm using. It's of my daughter, and she is probably about 4. And obviously, since she was born, she's been watching me create things and paints and scrapbook. And so she wanted her own little art journal, and you can see her in the photo there. She had a little pouch of her own pastels, and sometimes I would catch her off just drawing in her journal, which was super cute, and I was a little proud. She would craft with me in our craft room quite often, and unfortunately, since she's gotten older, that has died down a little bit, but it's still a really precious memory. So if you can see in the photo, I think she just basically drew some like a rainbow with her pastels. So I wanted to mimic that with the pattern papers. And this kit is full of the whimsical collection from Paige Evans. And so there is no shortage of bright, colorful patterns. And essentially, I am doing this all by hand, and there's probably an easier way to do this, probably with a silhouette, but my goal was to do this by hand without using the silhouette, the little challenge I created for myself. So it's not perfect, but I chose the colors of the pattern papers based on the colors that were in the picture. And you can see there I have just cut out strips, and I put them down, and I felt like there was something missing, so I decided to add some hand stitching. And one of them just has a back stitch, and one has the chain link stitch, which I learned from Paige Evans. And then one just has, I'm not even sure what the name of the stitch is called, but it's like a crisscross. And then the one on the pink, again, I don't know if there's a proper name for it, but I just stitched around the edge. And so I plan to layer these kind of like a rainbow. And then I realized that the white with the thin stripes on it something was missing. So I do end up adding a white, just a regular back stitch along that edge as well. So my goal was at first to take all of the cute little embellishments from this collection that were sort of art related and place them tone on tone, but I quickly realized that I did not really have enough for that. Not that there weren't enough in the collection, it didn't work out that way. Just there weren't enough of each color, and I wasn't really happy with the placement of it. So you'll see here I go back and forth with a few different plans on how to place the embellishments, and there's not really any rhyme or reason to this, and anybody can do this. This isn't really complicated at all, but I kind of just wanted them to be like either like floating up or scattered down. I'm not really sure how to explain what was going on in my head at the time, but I move these around quite frequently, and I think by the end they definitely have lost their stickiness, and I had to glue them down, which you should do anyway with any chipboard. It does not fail, no matter the brand or the company or the designer. Chipboard pieces do not stay. So once you pull them off that backing sheet, they will never stay after that point. It's like you've released the seal and they're no longer sticky. So you should always use, I use liquid adhesive to attach those permanently. So here you can see I am adding little scissors and pencils and little buttons and the paint tubes, And I love all the little tiny embellishments, and I really wanted to work in that little paint tray, the watercolor paint tray. And the design of this plan in my head, it seemed really simple to me, but once I started laying down all these embellishments, it really, I don't know why it took me such a long time to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted them to look. So am I the only one? So you have something plan in mind, and then you go to put it down on paper, and it doesn't turn out as simple as you thought it was. I find that happens often, but it got me started. And sometimes you just need to work through all the kinks and the fails before you get to something you like. And that's kind of what happened here. So I had the general idea of what I wanted to do, and it was basically just to have the picture down tucked in the bottom right hand corner, and these layers of color like radiating off the photo. And I even played with adding some of the flowers from the embellishment pack in just to fill in some of the colors, but I really wasn't feeling it. I'm not one to have to have specific embellishments that relate to the photo on every layout. Like, I will put flowers on pretty much every layout, and I don't think I'm the only one who will do that. But to me, on this layout, it just felt more like filler pieces, and I wasn't happy about it. So I end up scratching that plan. And I did want to work in the cute little chipboard words, but the kit includes some American Crafts gold foam thickers, and they're not the same gold. And in little doses, that doesn't bother me. But with my title, it ends up being a very large title, and the mix of the golds was just screaming at me. So, again, I just, like, in little doses, it's not a problem, and I don't think it would matter on anybody's layout. But you can see here I am placing my title down, and because the title is so large, just the mix of golds was just, I was not feeling it. So my title is My Little Picasso. I have called her that over the years, and so for a lot of titles, when I'm placing them down and I'm not ready to place them on my layout, I would just get a big sheet of wax paper so I can plan out the placement of it and the location, and they don't have to be placed perfectly on the wax paper, but it's just to get an idea of how they're going to fit. And you will notice I do misspell Picasso here initially, but I do catch on and I add that second S. But I just wanted it to, those stickers are pretty large, so the only logical space was that outer edge, and I think it fits perfectly. I'm really happy with the way that it looks, and I do go back and add that other S. And I also end up adding, see, that's where I'm comparing the different golds, and I like both golds. And it's funny because I think a few years ago, maybe 3-4 years, everything was silver. Like, you didn't see a lot of gold, but now pretty much every collection has gold in it, which is okay. I think the Heidi Swap gold color shine might have had something to do with it. I think pretty much everybody is obsessed with that. So now I am back to pondering the embellishments, and I am trying to decide how I'm going to put them back down. Again, I pick up that watercolor chipboard piece again because I really wanted to incorporate it. So here is where I decide, okay, I'm just going to forego the whole tone-on-tone embellishing because it just wasn't going to work out the way that I wanted it to. And still, I take some time to move around and reorganize the little pieces once I have them down, just to make sure that the color was spread out. To me, a balanced layout, if you have a lot of colors, if you have too much of one color on one side, or it doesn't look balanced to me. And that just might be me, but I have an art background and interior design background, and I just, that's just how I look at things. So I do end up adding a few pieces with the title, embellishments with the title, and right now it's just the pencil and the paintbrush, but I do add a little bit more later. And here's where I realized I need a little bit more space because I misspelled Picasso. But I am really I'm very happy with the way that it fit. It was almost meant to be, that the title fit so well in that spot. So there you go. Now the title's complete. So at this point, I haven't glued everything down to the background, which is just a piece of white cardstock. I have attached the first piece that has the thin stripes in the bottom right-hand corner, because I knew that that's where the start of the rainbow began. And I was almost hesitant to put anything down yet because I really wasn't sure whether I wanted to pop everything up on foam. I know that sounds crazy, but I kind of wanted more dimension with the layers of colors, and I thought I would pop each layer up on foam. But the problem is that they overlapped. So the final piece in the top left would have several layers of foam under it, and that would make for one very thick layout. Lots of dimension, but very thick. So I didn't glue everything down yet to secure it because I was toying with that idea still. I go back to the photo area because I felt like there needed to be a little bit more color and break between the photo and the background paper, the pattern paper. And here I am messing with those embellishments again. I am determined to get that little chipboard watercolor set in there. I think at this point I am pretty much set on the way that the embellishments are. So you can just see the screen changed, and I had to move them all again. But I think at this point I am happy with the placement of them. And I am now adding my title. And at this point, I have already attached all the layers of pattern paper to the background. So everything is secured. So I finally feel comfortable in adding my title. I do go back and I add something underneath the brush and the pencil. And right now, I tucked the paintbrush, the chipboard paintbrush, in my stitching, and actually, because it was sticking out, it's so much longer than the pencil, and it tucked right in one of the stitches, which was fun. It doesn't end up staying that way because I actually add more to that little embellishment cluster. But I am now contemplating whether I'm going to add some more little embellishments that I fussy cut from one of the pattern papers. If you're familiar with the collection, there is a pattern paper that has lots of little of the same images that you find in the embellishment packs, and they're also a little bit smaller because I felt like I needed some more pieces to fill in my cascade of craft pieces there. So that's that pattern paper I was mentioning, and I fussy cut out a few pieces, and I don't actually end up using a lot of them, but I do cut out some more little buttons. That is a little book, the yellow book, and which I thought was appropriate because she is coloring in a book. I cut out some of the colored pencils that I layer them together. So the whole embellishing of tone on tone is totally out the window, but I needed to do that to get to where it ended up. Does that make sense? Here are some still shots of the finished layout. I really hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for joining me, and I hope this inspired you to maybe do a little bit of hand stitching and create your own layout without using an electronic die cutting machine. I know a lot of us are into using those lately, and they're great, but sometimes it's fun to just cut paper. Thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.